Watch this woman try to open a jar of pickles at 11 o'clock at night. Her wrist trembles. Her grip gives out halfway through the twist. She sets the jar down, rubs her hand, and sighs in a way that says this happens more often than she admits to anyone. This is not clumsiness. This is not just getting older. This is what happens quietly inside aging muscles when one specific nutrient runs low, and almost nobody checks for it until their legs start giving them trouble on the stairs. Doctors have been studying this exact pattern for years, and once you understand what is really going on, you will never look at your nightstand the same way again. Most people believe that weak legs, tired knees, and a shaky grip are simply the price of getting older, something you grit your teeth through because there is nothing to be done. That belief is not only unkind, it is not even true. Muscle tissue in your body is alive and responsive every single day, rebuilding itself constantly based on the raw materials it receives, whether you are 62 or 92. The real question was never whether your muscles can still grow stronger. They can. The real question is what your body actually needs at night, while you sleep, to make that rebuilding happen properly instead of stalling out halfway through. Researchers looking into muscle strength in older adults have circled back again and again to one nutrient that keeps showing up in study after study, and it is not protein, and it is not calcium on its own. It is a vitamin your skin used to make effortlessly every time you stepped outside, back when you spent your afternoons in the sun instead of indoors under fluorescent lights. That vitamin is vitamin D, and new research on when you take it may matter just as much as whether you take it at all. Before we go any further, picture something simple. Picture a small bottle sitting quietly on your nightstand, right next to your reading glasses and your glass of water. No fancy branding, no expensive clinic visit. Just a small daily habit that costs less than a cup of coffee and takes about as long as brushing your teeth. That is what we are talking about tonight. Not a miracle, not a gimmick, just a nutrient your body has likely been running low on for years without anyone telling you. If you are watching this and you are 65, 70, or even older, you already know the feeling. Standing up from the couch and needing a second to steady yourself. Reaching for something on a high shelf and feeling your arms shake before you even lift anything. That quiet fear that lives in the back of your mind every time you walk across a wet kitchen floor or step down off a curb. You are not imagining it, and you are not alone in it. Millions of people your age feel exactly the same thing every single day, and most of them have never been told that a simple bedtime habit could actually help. This video is not sponsored by any supplement company, and nothing here is meant to replace your doctor's advice. What you are about to hear is built from real published research on vitamin D, muscle strength, and the timing of supplementation in older adults, not guesswork, not a sales pitch. If you find this helpful, type your age in the comments below, and let's build a place where people your age share what has actually worked for them instead of trading empty promises. So let's talk about why vitamin D specifically, and why nighttime specifically, keeps coming up in the research on aging muscles. Vitamin D does something most people never learned in school. It does not just protect your bones. It talks directly to your muscle cells. Deep inside your muscle fibers are tiny receptors built specifically to receive vitamin D, and when those receptors are starved, muscles do not contract as forcefully, they fatigue faster, and they take longer to recover after a normal day of walking, cooking, or gardening. Scientists studying older adults with weaker vitamin D levels have consistently found a connection between low vitamin D and reduced strength in the legs, the same muscles that carry you across a room, up a flight of stairs, and out of a low chair without needing to grab the armrest for support. Here is what makes this especially frustrating. As we age, our skin becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight, sometimes by more than half compared to when we were young. At the same time, many older adults spend far less time outdoors than they used to, whether because of mobility concerns, weather, or simply a change in daily routine. The result is a slow, silent decline that most people never notice until their strength has already started slipping. Doctors sometimes describe it as invisible, because unlike a broken bone, low vitamin D does not announce itself with sudden pain. It just quietly makes everyday movement harder, one small week at a time. Now here is where the timing becomes interesting, and where a lot of people get this part wrong. For years, the common advice was simply, take your vitamin D in the morning with breakfast. That is not bad advice, but newer research looking specifically at older adults and nighttime supplementation has found something worth paying attention to. Your body does the majority of its muscle repair work while you sleep, during the deep, restorative stages of the night. Growth hormone rises, damaged muscle fibers begin rebuilding, and the body prioritizes recovery in a way it simply cannot while you are up, moving, and burning energy during the day. Giving your body vitamin D right before that overnight repair window begins may allow it to be put to work exactly when your muscles are doing their most important rebuilding. Researchers running supplementation trials with older adults have paired vitamin D with resistance training and found that people taking their dose in the evening, close to bedtime, showed meaningful improvements in leg strength over just a matter of weeks, alongside healthy increases in their blood vitamin D levels. What stood out in these studies was not only that strength improved, but that the people taking their vitamin D at night also showed favorable changes in the hormones tied to muscle building, something that did not happen nearly as strongly in the group that skipped supplementation altogether. In other words, it was not simply that vitamin D helped. It was that the evening timing appeared to line up with the body's own natural rebuilding schedule. There is a second piece of this puzzle that almost nobody talks about, and it explains why some people take vitamin D faithfully every day and still do not feel much different. Vitamin D cannot do its job alone. Inside your body, vitamin D has to be converted into its active form before your muscles can actually use it. And that conversion process depends heavily on a mineral most older adults are quietly running low on: magnesium. Without enough magnesium circulating in your system, vitamin D can sit in your blood in an inactive form, technically present, but essentially locked out of the very cells that need it most. This is why so many people describe taking a vitamin D supplement for months without noticing any real change in how their legs feel. The vitamin was there. The door just was not open. Magnesium plays its own supporting role at night as well. It is heavily involved in muscle relaxation, which is part of why so many people associate magnesium with fewer nighttime leg cramps and a calmer transition into sleep. When magnesium levels are healthy, muscles are able to fully relax between contractions, cramping becomes less frequent, and the body settles into deeper sleep stages more easily, which circles right back around to giving your muscles more of that valuable overnight repair time we talked about earlier. Good sources of magnesium include leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and whole grains, and for people who are especially low, gentle, easily absorbed forms, like magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate, tend to sit better in the stomach than the cheaper forms often found in bargain supplements. Vitamin D3, specifically the cholecalciferol form rather than the plant-based D2 form, has repeatedly shown itself in research to raise blood vitamin D levels more effectively and to hold those levels higher for longer. Doctors and researchers who study bone and muscle health in aging populations tend to favor D3 for exactly this reason. Typical daily amounts studied in older adults for muscle and bone support generally fall somewhere in the range most doctors consider standard maintenance dosing, though the right number for you can depend on your current blood levels, your kidney function, and any medications you are taking, which is exactly why this is worth a conversation with your own doctor, rather than a guess based on a video you watched online. Think for a moment about what this actually means for daily life, not in abstract scientific terms, but in the small real moments that make up an ordinary week. It means getting up from a low chair without needing 3 tries. It means walking down your own driveway to get the mail without gripping the railing the entire way. It means kneeling down in the garden and being able to stand back up without calling for help. It means holding your grandchild's hand at the park and knowing your grip will actually hold. These are not small things. These are the things that quietly define independence as we get older, and they are exactly the things that a simple nutrient, taken at the right time of day, may help protect. There is another layer to this that deserves mention, because falls are one of the most serious risks facing older adults, and researchers have repeatedly linked low vitamin D not just to weaker muscles, but to poorer balance and a measurably higher risk of falling. Strength in the legs is directly tied to the small, constant micro-adjustments your body makes every time you shift your weight, catch yourself on uneven ground, or step off a curb you did not quite judge correctly. When those muscles are well supported, those tiny recovery movements happen faster and more reliably. When they are not, a small stumble can turn into a serious fall, and everyone watching this already knows how much a single bad fall can change a person's life. Think about a man in his late 70s who has quietly stopped taking the shortcut through his backyard because the ground is uneven and he does not fully trust his footing anymore. He has not told his children this. He has simply quietly rerouted his entire daily walk around a patch of grass he used to cross without a second thought. This is how muscle decline actually shows up in real life. It rarely announces itself. It shows up as small avoidances, small workarounds, small ways we quietly shrink our own world to feel safer. And it is exactly why researchers keep pointing back to nutrients like vitamin D, because rebuilding even a modest amount of leg strength and balance can be the difference between rerouting around that patch of grass and walking straight across it again without a second thought. It also helps to understand why vitamin D deficiency has become so widespread among people over 60 in the first place, because once you see the full picture, this stops feeling like a personal failing and starts feeling like something almost anyone in your position would run into. Decades ago, people spent far more of their day outdoors, working in gardens, walking to markets, sitting on porches in the evening sun. Modern life has quietly pulled most of us indoors, and skin that has spent 70 or 80 years being protected by sunscreen, clothing, and time spent inside simply has less opportunity to produce what it once did naturally. Add to that the normal age-related decline in the skin's own vitamin D production, along with kidneys and livers that become slightly less efficient at converting vitamin D into its usable form as we age, and you can see how deficiency becomes almost the default state rather than the exception for people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Doctors who specialize in bone and muscle health in older patients often describe vitamin D deficiency as one of the most common and most overlooked findings on routine blood work. It rarely gets flagged as urgent the way high blood pressure or high cholesterol does, even though its effects on daily strength, balance, and independence can be just as significant over time. This is part of why so many people go years without ever realizing their tired legs, their achy joints, or their general lack of stamina might be connected to something as simple and correctable as a vitamin level. It is worth saying clearly that vitamin D does not work in isolation, and no single nutrient is ever going to be a complete substitute for movement, protein, and an overall balanced way of eating. Gentle resistance activities, even something as simple as standing up and sitting back down from a chair a few times a day, or holding onto a counter for light squats, give your muscles a reason to use the extra support that vitamin D and magnesium are providing. Research on older adults consistently shows that vitamin D supplementation paired with light physical activity produces noticeably better strength outcomes than either one on its own. Think of vitamin D as opening the door for your muscles to rebuild, and movement as the thing that actually walks through that door. Seam quality itself deserves a mention here too, because it ties everything together in a way that is easy to overlook. Poor sleep does not just leave you tired the next day. It shortens the amount of time your body spends in the deep repair stages where muscle rebuilding actually happens, which means even a perfect diet and perfect supplementation can be working against a body that never gets the uninterrupted rest it needs to put those nutrients to use. This is one more reason magnesium's calming, muscle-relaxing effect at night matters so much. A body that settles into deeper, more restorative sleep is a body that gets more out of every nutrient you give it, vitamin D included. None of this requires anything dramatic. It does not require a gym membership, a personal trainer, or an expensive supplement regimen with a dozen different bottles lined up on your counter. It starts with something as simple as adding a vitamin D3 supplement to your evening routine, ideally alongside a source of healthy fat, since vitamin D is fat-soluble and absorbs better that way, along with paying attention to your magnesium intake through food or a gentle evening supplement if your doctor agrees it is appropriate for you. Some people also find it helpful to get their vitamin D levels checked with a simple blood test first, so they know their actual starting point instead of guessing in the dark. Picture this playing out over the coming weeks. The first week, maybe nothing feels different yet, and that is normal, because the body works quietly before it works visibly. By the second or third week, some people notice they are not gripping the countertop quite as hard when they stand up from a low seat. By the following month, stairs that used to require a pause on the landing start to feel a little more manageable. Small changes, stacking quietly on top of each other, the same way the decline happened quietly in the first place, just moving in the opposite direction now. None of this means throwing out everything else you already know about staying strong as you age. Protein still matters at every meal, hydration still matters throughout the day, and staying as active as your body comfortably allows still matters more than any single pill ever could. What vitamin D and magnesium offer is not a replacement for those basics, but a missing piece that quietly supports everything else you are already trying to do. A person eating well and moving regularly, but running low on vitamin D, is a bit like a car with a full tank of gas and a spark plug that is not quite firing right. Everything is technically there, but the engine is not running the way it should. You do not need to overhaul your entire routine tonight. Start with one small step. Talk to your doctor about checking your vitamin D level. Ask whether an evening D3 supplement makes sense for you and whether your magnesium intake could use some attention as well. Add a handful of nuts or a serving of leafy greens to your dinner this week. These are small, doable changes, not a complete life overhaul, and small changes repeated consistently are exactly what real, lasting strength is built from at any age. If this video gave you something useful today, tap the like button so more people your age can find it too. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss the next video built on real research instead of empty promises. Down in the comments, tell us your age, and let us know if you have ever had your vitamin D levels checked, or if tonight is the night you finally ask your doctor about it. Let this be a place where people encourage each other, share what has actually worked, and remind one another that strength is not something you simply lose and never get back. Stay strong, stay steady on your feet, and remember, it is never too late to give your body exactly what it has been quietly asking for all along.